the beautiful introduction to La Bayadere, music by Ludwig Minkus. Why are we playing that? Well, because tonight is the opening night of the Royal Winnipeg Ballet's brand new 2019-2020 season, and they are doing it with the ballet La Bayadere. Joining me in the studio is the newly appointed Principal Conductor of the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, Mr. Julian Pellicano. Welcome.
Thanks, Claudia. It's great to be here.
Always nice to have you here. If people are regular goers to the WSO, they have seen you on the podium numerous times. And you have really established yourself as one of the leading interpreters of music across a large spectrum of genres, traditions, and time periods. You've gotten wonderful accolades and reviews, all so deserved. Tell me, how did all this come about that you are now an official member of the Royal Winnipeg Ballet?
Well, first of all, thank you for that introduction. Very, very nice of you to say. And it's been, all of this, these different experiences are really due to my work here with the Winnipeg Symphony, who over the past 6 years have given me so many great experiences here in the city. So very grateful for that, and very happy to be here also now with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. And it came about since 2 years ago. I've been conducting productions with them. I think the first one was The Princess and the Goblin, and we did The Handmaid's Tale last year. I did Nutcracker with them 2 years ago, and most recently The Wizard of Oz, which was a really fun ballet to do. The working relationship between myself and the dancers and the administration and Andre Lewis, our artistic director, was working quite well. I found, after conducting many, many different kinds of genres and concerts, that actually I really enjoy conducting ballet. And I think that I have so much respect for the dancers, especially the dancers in this company, which are amazing. So to have an opportunity to work with dancers at that level was very, very attractive to me. And so, yeah, I'm happy to be able to continue to work with them.
So I was joking with you off air that, this can't be any harder than conducting the movie scores that you do for the WSO. And quite to my surprise, you said, no, it's harder.
Oh, it's much harder. Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Well, movie scores, there's certainly a lot to do, and it definitely takes skill, and it's not easy. You have to learn how to do it, and every film is a little bit different. The technology for the different films is different. But at the end of the day, it's still technology. It's still a robot. It's going to be exactly the same every single time. When you're working with living, breathing artists, individuals on stage, you have to be sensitive to their needs and what they're doing. And to be perfectly honest, Hollywood studio music is recorded in such a way that it's so incredibly rigid sometimes, especially with newer films. They're recorded in studios with click tracks and all kinds of things to make the editing process work. The music for La Bayadere was written in 1877. There is no click track. The music has to breathe. It has to go forward. It has to come back. It has to, depending on the dancer, it could be different from night to night. At the end of the run, it might be different than opening night. Nerves are higher on the first night. Energy is enhanced. So you really have to. I'm really just watching the dancers like a hawk, and trying to bring the orchestra, and bring the orchestra along with me, and sort of put everything together. So I think it's more difficult. It's a great challenge.
I've always wondered, I've gone to many rehearsals just sort of behind the scenes as a member of the media. And of course, they're rehearsing with a tape. And what is it like for them, the transition then to go to a live orchestra?
It certainly takes some time to transition because the tape will be the same every time. And then in the very short period of time, the dancers have to get used to being a little bit flexible, but hopefully not too flexible, because my job is to make them comfortable to be able to dance in the way that works the best for them. There are sometimes some things on the tape that for a particular dancer is not ideal, and so they'll let me know, hey, the tape is like this, but I'd really like it a little bit faster here, a little bit slower there, or can you open up the tempo in this spot because of whatever it happens to be. And so I sort of write those things in and make those accommodations in my own interpretation of the music. And so, yeah, it's an interesting transition that has to take place, but everyone's on board.
It sounds like a wonderfully creative process, though.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I usually spend the 2 weeks before opening night in the studio with the dancers, just watching their every move and taking notes on what they're doing and being a part of the process. As a musician, it's really a different world. So I'm still learning a lot about it. But just being there is just really cool. Yeah.
How has this process been like for you with La Bayadere? Any interesting things that you found with this music? This is, if you'll explain to us, because this is a brand new production of La Bayadere, they've done some stuff with the music, haven't they?
Yeah, and this ballet in particular has a history of people doing stuff with the music. So when I spoke to the orchestra at our first rehearsal, I had sort of mentioned that yes, this is a new production. There are some things that are different about the music, but the fact is there really is no definitive version of La Bayadere because it's been done so many different ways for a variety of reasons. It was originally written in 1877. There were a few revivals, and then after it was written for the Imperial Ballet in St. Petersburg, where Minkus was the composer in residence. And after the 1917 revolution, many things were lost. And in fact, the sets and costumes for the entire fourth act of this ballet were destroyed in a flood. And because it was just post-revolution, there wasn't exactly money to bring those all back together. And actually, there's an incredible complex stage machinery that was used to destroy the temple on stage. Basically, the temple, and the whole thing gets destroyed. And so they never repaired it or made new machinery. So the fourth act was just lost. It was cut. They didn't do it anymore. And so in the early 1940s, a revival at the Kirov Ballet in St. Petersburg became the standard Russian version of this ballet that you can still go and see today in St. Petersburg. That's their traditional version. And the ballet was completely unknown outside of Russia until 1961. When the Kirov went to Paris to perform only The Kingdom of the Shades, which is the famous part of Act 3. But in our version, it's in Act 2. So it wasn't until after 1961 that Western companies started to do La Bayadere, and there was the famous productions of it are from the American Ballet Theater, and also Nureyev did a production in 1992 with the Paris Opera Ballet, and then there's one from the Royal Ballet in London, which was orchestrated and with some extra composed music by John Lanchbury, who we just heard conducting in Sydney. So there is this tradition of slightly different ordering of the musical numbers depending on how the story is being directed. Sometimes in the Russian version, our Act 2 is actually the end of the ballet. But in our version, which was done by the incredible choreographer Greg Horseman, who comes from Queensland Ballet, who's here with us for our production, the third act has been some music from the Russian second act has been put into our third act, and then there's a different ending. And the music for that ending has been composed sort of in the style of Minkus, by
so it's original.
Yeah, by Nigel Gaynor, who's the music director of Queensland Ballet, and he did an incredible job. And it was really necessary. You might think to yourself, like, why mess with it? Well, to tell the story that Greg was trying to tell, I mean, it was incredible inspiration. The music, there had to be different music, and there was precedent for it with John Lanchbury's version for American Ballet Theater. So it's been done before, but 90% of the score is Minkus. The other thing that's been done with this music, it takes place in India. That's where the ballet takes place. Minkus, when he composed it, it was originally set in 4th century ancient India. Did Minkus know anything about Indian music? No, absolutely not. Did the choreographer, Petipa, know anything about Indian dancing? No. So one of the great features of this ballet for 21st century people who knows at least something about that part of the world.
Quite a bit now.
Yeah, I would say that your average person knows, quite a bit. Yeah, that choreography of the ballet actually includes some traditional Indian dancing and choreography, and the music as well. Certain aspects of the music have been sort of inflected by Nigel to sort of just give us the flavor of that place and sound, to bring us there as modern people, to sort of see this story and understand that we are there. And the other difference is that this ballet takes place in 1870s India, not 4th century India. So it actually takes place contemporaneously with when the ballet was originally composed. So this is during the time of British rule, and obviously these forces of colonialism and what was happening with the Maharajas at that time, and treaties are all at play in the story that's being told.
It sounds incredible. So basically, in a nutshell, if you've seen La Bayadere before, this is something completely new.
Yes, I'd say it's something completely new, but there are many things that are very traditional about it. The Kingdom of the Shades is the classic moment of La Bayadere, which is also one of those key moments in the sort of development of classical ballet, is there in all of its beautiful splendor, and it's absolutely gorgeous the way it's set on stage, and the music is wonderful.
Well, I can't wait to see you leading the orchestra in this brand new production. It sounds fantastic. Now, what does this mean for your schedule? How does this change in terms of what you've been doing before?
Well,
Does it just add on?
It gets progressively busier, yeah. But that's a good thing. I like to be busy. So
we're still going to see you with the WSO.
Absolutely, yeah. Actually, part of my season now, my title at the WSO has also changed.
Mm-hmm.
I was formerly resident conductor, and now the associate conductor. So some of my responsibilities at the WSO have changed, and those responsibilities also, just actually by coincidence, happened to align myself better to also take over the music conducting at the RWB. So very happy about that. Yes, my relationship with the WSO is wonderful, and I love working with them, and very excited about my full season at the symphony and also at the RWB.
Now, you've already done your first performance in the new season of the WSO, but what's next for you with them?
The next concert I'm doing with the symphony is Jurassic Park live.
Nice.
In a few weeks, which is going to be a lot of fun. I've done it twice before, once in New Orleans and once in Seattle, and so it'll be my third sort of time to perform it, and happy to bring it here to Winnipeg. Actually, it was after I did it a couple of times, I said we have to do this in Winnipeg. So I think everyone will really enjoy this film. The music is by John Williams.
Say no more.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much, Julian. It's so great to see you. You are welcome here anytime. We love having you here.
Thanks very much, Claudia.
So I thought we'd end off with some more music from La Bayadere and that famous entrance of the Shades. So anything more you want to add to it?
I just say that the music is so incredibly subtle, and when you come to the ballet tonight or tomorrow or the next day, which I strongly encourage you to do, when you see this scene, you'll be absolutely blown away.
So here is the Sydney Symphony Orchestra led by John Lanchberry with the entrance of the Shades on Winnipeg's Classic 107.